Damba Jumden de Jen Java Tajomba Yandava Zove Sanje Riva Dan Shabzo Demba Dewara Java Jeden Jemba Jebu Ndeve Kalo Jorwa Lana Meba Lada Namje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Dubala Janzelo Chodo Jauzo Je Damba Jumden de Dishin Shewa Tajomba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Riwa Da Shabzo Demba Dewara Shewa Jiden Jemba Galo Jorwa Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Domba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Jazel Chodo Jabzo Je Wo Domba Jumden de Dejen Jawa Jajomba Yandava Zobe Sanje Rikwa Da Jabzo Demba Dewara Shewa Jiden Jemba Jebo Ndeve Galo Jorwa Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Domba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Jaja Duba La Jaze Lo Chodo Jabzo Che O Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Changju Bado Tane Jabzo Che Dage Choshin Jebe Sonama Jola Penje Sanje Jobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Changju Bado Tane Jabzo Che Dage Choshin Jebe Sonamanje Jola Penje Sanje Jobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Changju Bado Tane Jabzo Che Dage Choshin Jebe Sonamanje Jola Penje Sanje Jobara Sho Good morning to all of you, those who are tuning in. So today I'm actually not in the condition to really do a class. I was down with COVID since Tuesday, and the first 2 days were really bad, but I am recovering, but not fully recovered. But because our classes are quite spread out, I didn't want to cancel today's class. So we will do a short session and then see how I feel. So first, just to remind what we have set up our mind in our last class, being that the first class of the year, we set out to set up a New Year resolution where I suggested that, at least make this year's classes something different, not the same kind of thing where you just come into class, spend an hour or two and go back and nothing happens. So we have been doing that for the past how many years? But from this year onwards, I suggested that at least try not to miss the classes. And when you are in the class, at least try to have some takeaways, something that you can apply. So that way you can build up your resources and you can build up your spiritual progress. So let's revisit that motivation, that attitude, and tell yourself that today in this class, I will at least try to go home with at least one takeaway which I can apply and practice for the coming days and weeks, so that next week when I come to the class, at least I can give myself a pat on my shoulder that at least I did something. I managed to get something out of this class. Otherwise, it's like, what did you learn in your last class? And then we started to scratch our head and like wondering what was discussed. So that's not that helpful. So anyway, in order to discuss the further topic, we need to kind of gain a bit of experience. So for that, I thought that we will just do a short meditation first, and then we will go from there. Okay, let's get ready to do a short meditation. Find yourself a comfortable place. I'll give you 1 minute to get ready. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin the practice by finding a relaxed, comfortable posture. You could sit on a chair or on a cushion on the floor. If you are on a cushion on the floor, you can sit in a full lotus position with each foot resting on the opposite thigh. If you cannot sit in the full lotus posture, then the half lotus is sufficient. If you have difficulty sitting on the floor, you can sit on a chair or whatever position that is most comfortable to you. Your spine should be straight like an arrow. Hold your head slightly bent forward, not too high. Shoulders should be level and relaxed, neither slouching nor stiff and tense. Place your two hands in the meditation gesture, the right hand on top of the left hand, with your thumbs touching at about the level of the navel. Alternatively, You could place your hands gently on your thigh with the tips of your fingers resting on your knees. Let your mouth and teeth rest in a relaxed, natural position. The tip of your tongue should rest gently on the upper palate, just behind the teeth. Let your eyes relax. You can either keep them gently closed or gaze softly in front of you at an angle where if you were to look, you would see the tip of your nose. Let's take 3 deep breaths, each time bringing all the way down into your belly as if you are filling up the torso with the in-breaths from the bottom to the top. Breathe deeply in this way, one breath at a time, and feel your belly rising each time as the air fills in. When you exhale, let your breath out at a slow, measured pace. Again, draw in a deep breath, feeding your body with revitalizing oxygen. And as you slowly release this second breath, feel yourself relaxing. On the final breath, draw in all your attention into this moment and release the breath slowly, feeling yourself drop into your body and into the present moment. Now bring your attention to the present moment by focusing on your breath. Choose a pace of breathing that is neither shallow nor deep, just natural. Now choose a focal point to help anchor your awareness of the sensation of your breathing. Notice where you feel your breath in your body most prominently. It could be the tips of your nostrils, where you feel subtle sensations as you breathe in and out, or your belly, where you feel the sensation of its rising and falling as you breathe. Once you have the focal point, just breathe in and out while resting your mind on that focal point. There is no need to think about your breath nor control it. Simply allow your body to breathe naturally at its own pace and experience each incoming and outgoing breath. As you do this, you might notice that your mind has wandered. You may start thinking about other things. If this happens, it is not a problem. It's very natural. Simply notice that your mind has wandered and gently bring it back to your breath. It is important not to judge yourself when this happens. Simply bring your attention back to your breath and continue focusing on it. Now let's shift our awareness from the breath to our unfolding inner experiences. Allow any thoughts, emotions, or sensations in the space of your mind arise naturally, and simply be aware of their presence. Allow them to arise, to be there, and then pass on in their natural course. Do not show preference for one kind of thought or feeling over another. Do not try to resist certain kinds of thoughts or feelings, and try not to get involved in these thoughts or feelings. Simply allow them to emerge in the space of your mind. Observe them while they are there, and then allow them to pass naturally. The mind is similar to the ocean. On the surface, it can be calm and clear or stormy and rough. Similarly, the mind can be agitated and swirling out of control, or pleasant and calm. But in the depths of the ocean, deep below the changing nature of the surface, the depths are always cool, clear, and calm. Try to connect to this part of your mind. No matter what is occurring on the surface, it is always luminous, clear, and calm in the depths. Now begin to return your attention to your body. Start to notice the physical sensations that you are feeling in your posture. Bring yourself back into the room. Start to notice any sounds, smells, or bodily sensations that you are sensing here in the present moment. As we finish the practice, let us resolve to try and keep this level of awareness in our lives. And if you like to conclude with a dedicatory wish for well-being for yourself and others, you may do so at this point. When you are ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay, so how was that? So what did you notice from this? So we did two kinds of meditation. One is really the single-pointed concentration, where we really try to rest our mind, focus our mind on a particular object, in this case, our breathing. And then the other part is more like an introspection. We became like a third person. We are more like a spy watching what our mind is going through, what kind of thoughts, emotions, sensations are arising within us. So these both of these are essential part of developing concentration. So in the first session, first part of the meditation, so what you would have noticed is that two things happens. Either our mind wanders, it refuses to remain focused on the object that we wanted it to focus. It continuously wanders. For beginners, you wouldn't even realize that it has wandered after a long time. And then there is another part where you feel that you cannot really hold on to that object. There is this loosening of your apprehension. You cannot really see or focus that clearly. So that's called laxity. So these two are the main obstacles. So in order to counter these two obstacles, we need the introspection. We need the vigilance. We need to realize, we need to see or understand that these two are happening. When it comes to excitation, so here they purposely chose the term excitation instead of saying wondering. So the difference is that when our minds goes off the object, that is mind wandering. The mind has wandered off the object, off the focal point. So that is mind wandering. Our mind is scattered. But there are various causes what give rise to mind wandering. It could be triggered by attachment. It could be triggered by a virtuous mindset. For example, when you are trying to do this kind of meditation, suddenly you develop a strong sense of compassion or wish or to be generous. So these kind of thoughts are virtuous thought, but it still distracts you from focusing your mind on. So in mind wandering, the causes that give rise to mind scattering or mind wandering can be caused by virtue, non-virtue, virtuous mindset as well as non-virtuous mindset. So here in the process of developing shamatha or calm abiding, so main obstacle is the distraction that is caused by attachment. The reason is that the distraction that is caused by either anger or virtuous mind is not that long lasting, whereas the mind wandering that is triggered by attachment can be long lasting. Attachment is very difficult to remove. The analogy that commonly given is the oil scattered on a piece of paper. If you try to clean a oil-stained paper, it is like impossible. It is very hard. So that's why the mind wandering that is caused by attachment is more damaging. So that's why when developing shamatha, that became like the main obstacles. So that's why instead of using one mind wandering, the word excitation is used. In Tibetan, we have chowa and what is the one? Guba. So the difference between Towa and Guba is the factor behind, or what do you call it, the underlying cause. So this is very important to first understand what are these two obstacles. If we fail to really identify clearly, there is this danger, especially excitation is quite easy to understand, but it is very hard, very difficult, very confusing to really discern or identify clearly what laxity means. Because of that, in the past, the ancient Tibetan scholars, many great scholars, they misunderstood this. And only when Lama Tsongkhapa made it very clear the difference between lethargy and laxity, because Lama Tsongkhapa was saying that these other things that people misunderstood as laxity are the causes of laxity, not the actual laxity. If we fail to really understand this point, what will happen is sometimes that the subtle laxity will appear as if you have reached a certain degree of concentration. You feel that you are on the right track, and then if you continue pursuing that, sitting on that, you will get nowhere. Instead, it will really, what you call, kind of backfire, in a sense that you will lose your mindfulness, your wisdom will also be diluted. So it's very, very important. So there was this story. It's not really a story, it's an actual thing. So I read this in one of the commentary, and there was a great scholar who has studied all these great philosophical texts, and who has read intensively and went to train in Shamatha meditation, and did meditation for 6 months. And after that, he felt that he has achieved Shamatha. And then when we went to consult someone who was at that time known to have achieved Shamatha, who has spent his whole life in a cave doing a retreat, and that Lama told him that you have misunderstood that laxity, that subtle laxity as shamatha, as concentration. You need to improve that. So the point is, even those who are well versed in scholar, what do you call those all those commentaries in training in shamatha, then like us, who haven't had the opportunity to do intensive studies, we will be prone to misunderstanding. That's why nowadays, people claim all kinds of things. And one of the misconception, what meditation is, just to blank out. So when you close your mind, blank everything out, when you have nothing to hold on, sometimes, you can be able to remain there for some time, quite some time, feeling nothing. And then, people think that, oh, I'm doing a proper meditation. So that's why let's just dive into this. So how to cultivate shamatha on that basis? So there one way, which is what you call very common and very efficient, is this. the 8 antidotes, which eliminates the 5 faults. So in the text, 5 faults are identified. So we need to first identify the 5 faults and then need to apply the counter, the antidotes to these 5 faults. So among them, the 2 main things is, as I mentioned, the excitement and laxity. So here the excitement, it is an unique state of mind considered a derivative of attachment, which pursues pleasant objects and acts as an impediment to meditative serenity. So there are 3 kinds of characteristics here. First of all, is a derivative of attachment. It has to be driven by attachment. And then what does it do? Or what the subjective is that it pursues pleasant objects. Whether there is objectively pleasant or not, it doesn't matter. And then acts as an impediment. The function is to impede the meditative stability. So that's excitement. So excitement, there are 2 levels, the coarse level or the gross level or subtle level. The coarse level we can understand. When we try to focus our mind on an object, let's say our breath, if it wanders off that object, then that is the grosser level of excitement. That's easy to identify. And there is something subtler than that. Something, the subtle excitement. So in subtle excitement case, what happens is one is still able to remain focused on the desired object, but there is something going on at the side. You have not completely lost your object of focus, but there is something that is happening at the side. There is kind of inclination. So here it says, when the mind remains focused on its object, but there is a temptation or inclination to move towards another object. I think this you can tell from your experience that you know that your mind is focused there, but something else is going at the side. And your mind, you are more inclined to move towards that. So when that happens, the subtle excitation is happening. And then laxity. So laxity is defined like this. Your mind's way of apprehending the object of meditation is slack. It does not apprehend the object with much vividness or firmness. So even if it is limpid, if your mind's way of apprehending the object is not highly vivid, then laxity has set in. So in other words, laxity is a loosening of the mental clarity of your object. The mind becomes weak just as it is right before you fall asleep. So you lose that strength. So there are 2, as in excitement, so there are 2 levels, grosser and the subtle. The grosser is like there is something blocking there when you try to rest your mind, when you try to visualize whatever the object of meditation. So here when we train in Shamatha, we normally use Buddha's image. You can use a flower, but something image, some kind of image. Like if you focus on breath, there is no real image to conjure in your mind. So you need something that you can visualize. So the grosser level of laxity is like when there is a shadow in front of that object. So you cannot really picture it. So that's the grosser level. The subtle one is you can still have some clarity there, but there is no strength in apprehending that. So this is not easy to understand, but in the commentary it says that it only one can understand through one's own experience. Let me see what else I have here. Your mind is focused on its object of meditation and is abiding properly. So when the subtle laxity sets in, so the danger is that because your mind is focused on its object of meditation, so the stability is there. It's not distracted, but at the same time, it may have no clarity with respect to its object. So that's the grosser level of laxity. But then when it comes to the subtle one, there is stability, there is clarity, but there is no strength in your mind that is apprehending that object. So it is difficult to understand. So that's why people confuse that. Because when you are in that, you see that you are able to remain on the object. You see there is some clarity there. And then, you just remain on that. But you fail to notice that there is no strength in that. There is no firmness. So because of that, is the subtle laxity has set in. So in order to succeed in shamatha, we need, first of all, of course, the stability. The mind needs to remain on the object. So that is, of course, the excitation. We have to remove that. And then not only that, we need to have the clarity of the object in our mind. Whatever we are meditating on, whatever we are focusing on, that image, that visualization has to be very clear. Not only the image needs to be clear, the mind that is apprehending must be very strong. We need the inner strength. So now let's go through the five faults. So the first of the five faults is laziness. Laziness gets in our every success. So in order to counter this, the antidote for the laziness, there are three parts: confidence, aspiration, perseverance, and pliancy. So why we feel lazy is because we don't see the virtue of shamatha, the concentration. So in order to counter laziness, first we need to develop the faith in the value of shamatha. What are the merits? What are the benefits of achieving shamatha? So when we see the benefits, then we get inspired. Then we want to chase after shamatha. Then only then the aspiration to achieve shamatha will arise within us. And with that aspiration, then we will endure the hardship. We will put up with hardship. That's when the perseverance happens. And finally, what will happen is we will be able to develop what is called pliancy. So there are two forms of pliancy, physical and mental. So what this is, that pliancy is like, literally means flexible. So at the moment, if we are to sit and do half an hour meditation, there is so much discomfort, unease. 5 minutes in meditation, back ache, knee ache, whatnot. But when we develop pliancy, physical pliancy, there will be no discomfort, no hardship. One can put one's physical body to any posture for hours, days, months. There is no exhaustion. So that's why I mentioned that people say that Lama Zopa Rinpoche has achieved Shamatha. That's why he doesn't need to sleep. He travels. He used to travel from center to center. And while at one center, if he were there, if he spent 1 week there, and when the time comes for Rinpoche applies, everybody was exhausted and kind of trying to recover from that. But Rinpoche was already gearing up for another event. And you wonder, how did he manage all that? Some people say that he has achieved that pliancy. So that's a physical form of pliancy. And mental is same. When we do meditation, when we sit down to do meditation, we get exhaustion, not physically, mentally. And we are unable to really station our mind the way we want it. Once we achieve pliancy, mental pliancy, one can easily, without any difficulty, can just adjust our minds on any object. It is effortless. There's no discomfort, no resistance. So that's what we are trying to develop. So that's how these 4 counters the fault of laziness. The second fault is forgetting the instructions. So nowadays, of course, we have so many modes of learning. You can learn from YouTube, you can read from books and all these things. Early, those ancient times, it's all directly, oral transmission is given directly by one's own teacher. So if you forget, let's say the teacher gives the instruction that you should do this, you should visualize this form, let's say the Buddha's form, meditate in this way. So if we forget, no way we can proceed, we can progress in our meditation because we have forgotten the instructions. So counter that, we need to have the mindfulness, remembering each and every instruction, so that when we actually engage in the meditation, we follow the instructions clearly. And then comes the laxity, excitement. So here, until here now, you are able to counter the laziness. You are really motivated to develop shamatha, and you are mindful. You remember each and every instruction clearly. But what happens when laxity and excitement sets in? then it is a huge hindrance. We won't be able to progress further. So for that, to counter that, we need the vigilance. We need this introspection. The spy, remember the second part of the meditation, is watching whether laxity is setting in or whether excitation is happening. So when these two happens, one needs to apply. When we realize that laxity is setting in, and if we fail to apply the application, when we fail to counter laxity, that is another fault. Likewise, when we realize that our mind has wandered, excitation has happened, and if we fail to apply the application, that is another fault. So, in that case, we need to apply the intention of application. Once the vigilance picks it up, and then we need to develop this intention to apply the appropriate application. And then sometimes what happens is we do too vigorous vigilance, and even though everything is going smoothly, your mind is well stabilized. Your clarity, the strength, everything is appropriate. But if you apply a kind of a ultra or extra vigilance and then try to apply what is not needed, that is another form of fault. So we need to maintain equanimity. When things are going well, we need to know that there is nothing, we need to know that nothing needs to be applied. So these are the 5 faults and 8 antidotes. So if we follow this, then there's no reason why we will not achieve shamatha. So let's get back to this one. Because laziness is the main thing. So what we are trying to develop here is physical and mental pliancy. As I explained before, we need to have that. Once we have that kind of ability, then we can engage in our practice, in our meditation for hours and hours without any exhaustion. But how can this be achieved? This comes through consistent perseverance. Without perseverance, without applying consistent hardship into the practice, there is no way we can achieve the pliancy. So how can we sustain our perseverance? Is through aspiration to achieve. When we have strong aspiration, then we will work towards it. For example, if you like a nice car, which you really inspired, which you really, one of your, the top list in your basket, if that is so important, if you're so inspired, you really want that, you will do all kinds of things. Whether you need to save money, whether you need to take loan, whether you need to do more hours of work, whatever it is, you will put the effort. So, aspiration to achieve shamatha comes from developing faith in the value of shamatha. We need to see the value. What is this? What do I get? What happens if I am able to achieve shamatha? What is this big deal about shamatha? So once you see the benefits, what it can do, then you are enthused in it. Then you develop this conviction that I need to develop this. So let's look at some of the qualities of shamatha. So these are just some examples. There are many benefits and qualities. So this one says, your mind is filled with delight and your body filled with bliss, so you are happy. So as we talked about the two flying sea, the physical flying sea and mental flying sea. So when one develops shamatha, then this is part and parcel. This comes with it. So mentally you are what you call serviceable. Your body, your mind is serviceable at any time towards anything. And you will be all the time in this kind of a, I don't know, I won't say joyful. It's like there's no real trace of pain or suffering or discomfort. And even if our main goal is to seek happiness and joy in this life, this will guarantee that. Minimum, even in this life, you can turn your attention to any virtuous object of meditation you choose. How wonderful that would be. At the moment, many of us say, oh, I wanted to do this, but then my mind is not getting around that thing. I wanted to do retreat. I wanted to focus. I wanted to do good visualization. But my mind is not obedient. My mind is not following my wish. So once you develop shamatha, you just give any command and your mind is like your servant. It will follow everywhere, wherever you ask, wherever you want it to be. So when you develop shamatha, so it can be like you can remain and stabilize very steadily, like Mount Meru, nothing can move. But if you want to channel your mind to anything, that also one can do. You are not constantly involved in wrongdoings. Any virtue you do is very powerful. So because that you can now direct your mind, so your mind is not like a wild elephant or wild horse. If it's a wild elephant, of course you have no control over it. It can run into all kinds of directions and then cause so much destruction and harm. But now your mind is a tamed one. It only follows your command. So knowing the consequences of karma and all these things, now that we have control of our mind, we will definitely use to do virtuous and not to commit any negative karmas. So that's how we can benefit from this kind of tamed mind. You can achieve good qualities such as the super knowledges and supernormal powers. So I think you are familiar with this supernormal. So these are common qualities. Even non-Buddhist practitioners can achieve because they can achieve shamatha. And with shamatha, you can achieve all this. So let me just give you some examples. So like the 5 supranormal powers, so it's like the divine eye. So what does divine eye? Divine eye is the supranormal ability to see beyond the ordinary range of eyesight. When you have a divine eye, you can see beyond what human beings can see, normal human beings can see. You can see miles and miles, see from miles and miles. And then divine ear, you can hear. Your hearing, the sensitivity or the range of your hearing is far more superior. You can hear from hundreds of miles. And then something called recollection of the former births and seeing future births. That's also part of Supra. We want to know, isn't it? What was I in the past? What was this person's past lives? So these all can be achieved through Shamatha, developing Shamatha. Then miraculous powers. One can perform all kinds of feats, walking on the sea or flying without, wings or whatever. And then there's something called the knowing others' mind. You can read what other person is. It's kind of a clairvoyance. So all these are the things we want to possess in our, I don't know, a drawer or whatever you call that. So these can be achieved through shamatha. And then you develop the knowledge of insight that knows the real nature. So this is the main point. The insight. If, remember we talked about the need for the union of wisdom. Was it wisdom? No, we talked. Yeah, I think union of wisdom and method. The one that really cuts or sever the ties to suffering can be only done by the insight, the wisdom realizing emptiness. We call it Laktong, special insight. So special insight can be only achieved upon achieving shamatha. And I think I have mentioned this before. This is like, if we don't have shamatha, then it's like trying to, the analogy, I think we can use this like the X when we are cutting down. But of course here, I think maybe that analogy is not suited here because you hardly use X to cut, bring down trees. In India we do that. So when we cut, we don't, those days, of course now has changed. Those days we didn't have chainsaw. So when we have to cut down a tree, so only tool we use was X. So when you cut down a tree, first of all, you need a sharp axe. If it's a blunt one, no matter how many times you hit there, it's not going to do the job. But even if you have a very sharp axe, but if your hand is not stable, then every time you hit, it will be a different target, and you never get the tree chopped down. So you need both. You need a stable hand, you need a sharp X. So likewise, in order to achieve enlightenment or even liberation, you need the insight, wisdom realizing emptiness, and shamatha to really have let me rephrase. In order for an effective wisdom, we need a stable mindset, which is shamatha. So, in order to develop insight, special insight, we need shamatha. And finally, you can quickly cut the root of cyclic existence. So with the shamatha, you can build on insight, the special insight, and that will sever the ties. That will cut the root of samsara. So that's why shamatha is said to be the basis for all our spiritual goals. So now, when we think of these benefits, then there is chance that we get convinced of these benefits, and then we get inspired. And because of that, we endure, we develop perseverance. And as a result, we develop pliancy, physical and mental pliancy. And that's how we can counter the fault of laziness. So that is like the number one. So once we are able to get over with the laziness, then we are already on our way. Okay, so I think we will stop here for today, and then we will continue from from the next class. Thank you. Jambe bawe jedara kemba dang gundo zambo deyan dejendo deda kungi jesu talovji gyawa deda tamje rabdo ngo duzun shekbe gyawa tamje je ngowa kangla chokdo ngawa dagi gewe zawa ndigun jang sambo chuji rabdo ngowa gis. Thank you all.